So the first time I drank a cappuccino, I was about 4 weeks away from owning a coffee shop. It occurred to me that I was gonna be selling cappuccinos, so it would be a good idea if I knew how they tasted. The extent of my coffee illiteracy was so severe that when I ordered the cappuccino, I made sure to remind the barista to put milk in mine. As you probably know, milk is one of the 2 ingredients in a cappuccino. This bumbled cappuccino order, in a way, set the tone for the next 4 weeks as my business partner, Greg, my wife, Angie, and I tried to set up a coffee shop. Well, none of us had ever set up a coffee shop before, so we had no idea what we're doing. We had no choice but to wing it, to go with our gut, and it felt good. It felt like it was working. We needed some furniture, so we went and picked up some rickety antique chairs from Queen Street, and we convinced ourselves that it was an aesthetic choice. We needed kitchen equipment, but this shiny stainless steel equipment is so expensive, so we just went to House and Home and got a fridge, a microwave, and one of those stove oven combos. And, well, that was our kitchen. We needed some staff, so we just hired 2 guys that Greg liked from a shop he used to go to, and we figured like one of the guys could make coffee, the other guy could help make coffee if it got busy, or clean up, I don't know, and if someone ordered a sandwich, one of them could just go into the kitchen and make the sandwich. But there was one item that we put a lot of thought into, and we decided we were going to invest in, and that was an awning for outside the front of the shop. We figured that it would be good for our customers to sit in the shade while enjoying their coffee, and we also felt it would round off the aesthetic of the place quite nicely. So we got a couple quotes, we paid our deposit, and we chose the colors, yellow and white stripes, and well, we just had to trust and put our faith into our awning guy that he would deliver before our grand opening, which at this point was about 2 weeks away. So time passed and awning guy wasn't communicating. We would phone him and he wouldn't answer. We would email him and, well, he wouldn't reply. So one afternoon, we're getting a little bit anxious about our awning, and we decide, well, let's just take a drive down there and see what's going on with our awning. So we get into Greg's Ford Fiesta, and Google Maps takes us all the way into a downtown industrial Selby, and we go up this long cul-de-sac, quite deserted, and we reach the end, and there is our awning guy's factory. But as we approach, we realize, we notice there's like an angry mob gathered outside the awning factory, and it's about 40 or 50 people kind of like angrily shouting at the building. And the first thought that crossed my mind is, how many people does this guy owe awnings to? But we realized afterwards that the awning factory had just gone bust, and all these people had just found out moments before we arrived that they were now out of jobs. Hence the anger. In the middle of the commotion, we see our awning guy, the guy that came and measured. He walks out of the front door and he puts a big chain around the door and a padlock, and he pushes his way through the crowd, and he gets into his Hilux, and he just gets out of there. He makes eye contact with us, but he doesn't acknowledge us, which I didn't love, but he gets out of there. Greg pulls the car a little closer to the angry mob and winds down his window, and in the nicest way possible, just to these people, he just goes, "Any news on our awning, you guys?" In this a very emotional moment, these people gathered outside the factory all start shouting and pointing at the Hilux, "Don't let him get away! Chase them! You gotta follow them!" And so we get caught up and we turn the car around and we start chasing this Hilux. Our hearts are beating and our palms are sweating. We're essentially at this point in a high-speed car chase for a yellow and white striped awning. So we chasing after them, and it felt kind of like a movie in the moment, but if I think back now, it was probably just like 1 or 2 turns, but it felt really intense to us. Anyway, they round a corner and we are right behind them, and they head up a road and it's a dead end. I look at Greg and I say, okay, we got them. They get to the end of the dead end and they turn the car around to face us and they stop. Greg stops the car about 300 or 400 meters away from them and he goes, I'm not going up there. I said, Greg, what about our awning? And he looks at me and he says, Shane, I don't like this. It's as if we sort of walked into this perfectly orchestrated trap by the Selby awning mafia, and Greg just got a whiff, and well, he didn't like it. So we sort of had a standoff. They're facing us. We're just kind of looking at each other. There's no movement on their side. There's none from our side. We're just kind of waiting, deciding what to do. And Greg's phone rings. It's awning guy. He puts it on speakerphone, and he goes, how's it, Greg? Yeah, it's Mark here. Listen, man, our company has just gone bankrupt. Sorry about the commotion back at the factory. But listen here, when I make a promise, I always deliver on my promises. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home now. Later tonight, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to break into the factory. I'm going to steal your awning. It's finished. It's finished. I'm going to steal your awning, and then later this week, I'll come and install it for you guys. How does that sound? At this point, neither Greg or I are kind of willing to drive any closer and get into some kind of physical thing with some awning badasses from the mean streets of Selby. So naturally, our response is, okay, well, thanks, Mark. Thanks for the update, re-awnings. Yeah, listen, anytime this week's great for us. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, chat later. So, anyway, we leave. A couple days later, awning guy arrives. Awning guy puts up our awning. And a few days after that, people are drinking cappuccinos underneath our awning. I can now confidently recommend a cappuccino, having tasted one. And kind of after that, we just continued to wing it. It was kind of became like just the way we ran our shop, was to kind of just figure it out as we were going along. And we kind of just did whatever we wanted. We had music nights and art exhibitions, and we had a Scrabble tournament. And somewhere along the line, we discovered the taste sensation that is a red velvet cake paired with a Carling Black Label. And then later on, we sold the shops, and they've since closed down. But when I think back to my brief time as a restaurateur, I always think back to like how we were always winging it, and how we were kind of just going with our gut the whole time. And I asked myself the question, would it have been better if like we were better prepared, or if we had planned better? Would the thing have been better? And I'm not convinced it would have been. Like, if anything, if we had known better going in, we might have prevented ourselves from doing the thing to begin with. I guess the feeling I'm left with after that is sometimes going with your gut and figuring it out as you go along can be the best strategy, even if it doesn't feel like it at the time. Thank you. Thank you.